Supreme blow to centre in top court.
The ability of a company to influence the electoral process through political contributions is much higher when compared to that of an individual.
Illegal poll bond scheme scrapped. Poll bonds fail Probity Agni Pariksha. Opposition hails historic justice.
आप सार्वजनिक करिए, पूरी जानकारी करिए कि 5200 करोड़ किसने दिया भारतीय जनता पार्टी को। उसकी एवज में उन कंपनीज को भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार ने क्या उपकार किए उन कंपनीज पर।
Will this bring Swachh Chana?
Electoral bonds are unconstitutional, violative of fundamental rights and voters' right to information, and they are hereby, therefore, scrapped. The scathing ruling by India's top court, the Supreme Court today, brings to an end a scheme for political funding that has been controversial and contested since its inception in 2018. In effect, today's verdict presents a major blow to the BJP, since it was the BJP government that pushed this scheme, argued strenuously to defend it, in favour of it, and then finally implemented it. First, let me tell you, viewer, how electoral bonds actually work or worked, since they've now been scrapped by the Supreme Court. Now, electoral bonds are an instrument through which anyone can donate money to political parties. These bonds are sold in multiples of 1,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, and 1 crore rupees. Now, these bonds can be purchased by any Indian citizen or entities incorporated in India, that is, corporate entities. The donor can purchase these bonds from authorized branches of the State Bank of India by paying the amount through a cheque or digitally, but not cash. Now, this purchased electoral bond can be given to the political party of their choice. The party then has a 15-day window to encash these bonds to fund their electoral expenses. Now, here's the clincher. Electoral bonds are completely anonymous. The bond does not carry the name of the buyer. The next question, who benefited the most from these electoral bonds between 2018 and now? Now, studies suggest that the ruling party, whosoever it might be, benefits the maximum from donations through electoral bonds because, well, they're in power and donors want to support the party that's in the throne. Of the 9,208 crore rupees in electoral bonds sold between 2018, the inception, and 2022, the BJP got over half, over 50%, 5,271 crore, followed far behind by the Congress at 952 crore, the Trinamool at 767 crore, and the Biju Janata Dal at 622 crore. So the BJP towers and was by far the biggest beneficiary of this scheme. Now comes the third question. How does the Supreme Court verdict impact what happens in the 2024 election campaign? Now, this is where things get really interesting, viewer. The Supreme Court has ordered that donor data, those who've bought these bonds and given them to political parties, must now be revealed by the State Bank of India and published by the Election Commission within the next 3 weeks. Once the data on these donations and the donors is published by the Election Commission, voters will finally know who has funded the political parties they are keen on voting for. Details of the donors, especially corporate donors, will be the first step towards determining whether corporate interests were kept above public interest in the formation of government policies as a quid pro quo. This is something that is constantly alleged of governments, especially the current one. Now, setting aside what parties have amassed so far, and I've shown you those numbers from electoral bonds, the Supreme Court crackdown today theoretically puts all parties on equal footing for the 2024 polls, with no party getting any further benefit from electoral bond scheme. But that doesn't account for how much these parties have already amassed, and we've just shown you how the BJP has benefited from this scheme far more than any other by virtue of being the party in power. Now, the Chief Justice of India had observed during his verdict today that the scheme does not provide a level playing field for all political parties. Let's be clear about one thing, viewer. Today's verdict, no matter which way the BJP slices it, is an indictment of a BJP-pushed scheme for political funding. It's been controversial right from the start on the issue of transparency. There can be no two ways about that. While it is true that parties other than the BJP, like we just showed you, have benefited from electoral bonds to the tune of, more than 1,000 crores, including the Congress and the Trinamool, it is still nowhere close to how much the BJP has benefited from the inflow. Interestingly, other than the CPM, no other party took a principled or official call to refuse funds flowing into their parties via electoral bonds, even though they were against it and constantly questioned it. That raises questions about why they didn't. Some may see this as hypocrisy in light of parties like the Congress now claiming victory and Rahul Gandhi expressing principled victory over this verdict. But it is also true, viewer, that it is a Congress member who is one of the petitioners in the electoral bonds case that has seen a victory for them in the Supreme Court today. Never forget that. Now, with the scheme now scrapped, the question is, will donor data provide an explosive new chapter in transparency in what drives our political parties? In 3 weeks, we could actually know. Now I want to